Yes, let me welcome Dr. Aki Tornberg from the Finnish Ministry of Education. We are very excited to be able to speak to you, Dr. Tornberg, about upper secondary education in Finland and flexible completion of upper secondary education. We have been full of admiration for Finland's innovations in this area. And I think you brought us a presentation which you're going to share with us today and explain a little bit what Finland has been doing in this area. Thank you so much.
Okay, vielen Dank, Professor Dr. Anne Sliwka. And my name is Aki Tornberg, and I'm currently working at the Ministry of Education as a senior ministerial advisor. And during this conversation and discussion, we are going to talk about our latest reforms in Finland, and also how we have dealing with these stages that are when students and pupils are moving from one stage to another. Okay, so this in short, this is our administration of basic and upper secondary education in Finland. And as you can see here in the middle, there's a Ministry of Education and Culture, and on the left side you can see the National Agency for Education. Ministry makes this division of subject matters, and a national agency made will made also always our curriculums. We have also an education evaluation center that is independent, and we have a national evaluation. We have no high-stake test, just only in the upper secondary general education we have a national and high-stake test, but otherwise we are making these evaluations widely as a survey based here in Finland. We have also, as you see in the on the left side below, the matriculation examination board. So that is in charge of this high stake test at the upper secondary general education. So that is the structure of how we guidance our education. Okay, next slide please. Education system in Finland. So starting from the very below, so there is the early childhood education. When inhabitant in Finland is 6 years old, so that is the pre-primary school. Then we have a 9-year basic education from 7 years old to 15 to 16 years old. And here you can see the between these preparatory stages. So there's the voluntary additional 10th grade if somebody has not reached a basic education qualification, so they can take 1 extra year to study in this 10th grade. And then those who have difficulties in Finnish or Swedish language, those are official languages in Finland in education, so they can take a preparatory education. When on the left side you can see matriculation examination, this is upper secondary general education. On the right hand you can find a vocational education. So before that, everybody who have difficulties in languages can take a preparatory education that they can learn some Finnish or Swedish. After this takes 3 years. This upper secondary general education and matriculation, this vocational side. And after that, everybody can continue from both sides to the university, that is on the left side, bachelor degree, or to the University of Applied Sciences on the right hand. Yeah, and there's also a bachelor degrees. So from both sides, also from the vocational side or upper secondary general side, gymnasium side, you can go to the tertiary level. But it's much more common from the left side. This from gymnasium go to the universities. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, here's a structure of the national education system in Finland. As you can see, that this is expressed a little bit another way. And this yellow bar here, from 16 to 19 years old, is our gymnasium or upper secondary general education. And then this brown one is our vocational side. And okay, next slide, please. Compared to this system to the German one. Can I have a next slide, please? And this is the structure of the national education system in Germany. So this is this yellow side is the same as our upper secondary general side in up there. Okay, next slide, please. First, this preparatory education. So we have 3 types of preparatory education right now. first is this voluntary additional year of basic education, 10th grade. So you can increase your grades, how you have managed in the 9th grade or at the end of the basic education. So you can try to raise your grades and then continue to the, for example, gymnasium side. Second one is that when you have finished your basic education, so you can go to the vocational side, this preparatory education, and this is like called Valma and Thema. And this Thema is more than that you want to learn more independent living, because during that time you might go out from home, so to the school provider that might be exist somewhere else than in your own municipality. And the third one is the upper secondary general education LUVA, and that is in the gymnasium side. And that is also that we have thought that those immigrants, many of them are very clever, but they have a lack of a Finnish or Swedish language, and as you know, Finnish and Swedish is quite a difficult language. So we want to make sure that they have these language conditions are in a good level when they are continuing to the further. And during next year, we are going compare all these three together, and then we are called TUVA education. So there will be only one preparatory education or pre-qualification training for those who are ending basic education. Okay, next slide, please. I will take these transversal competences. Now we are going to our reform in upper secondary education, but we have to take first this competence issue that it's a huge debate all over the world that how should we share these disciplines, subject matters, and what is the role of the competences. So in Finland, we have done this way, that we have compared these disciplines and competencies together. So disciplines and all those subjects exist still, but we have defined these competence areas. And in basic education, we have 7 competence areas, and they are mentioned in here: thinking and learning to learn, cultural competence, and so on. Multiliteracy, working life competence, and entrepreneurship, and so on. We have 7 competences in basic education. And I show this slide because of it has to be a continuity to the next stage. So we will see later those competence areas that exist in upper secondary general education. So these have to be somehow in balanced. But these have to define first these competence areas and how we solve this issue. And I think that is, in my mind, that is clever solution that we have written our curriculum so that these competence areas are written inside every discipline. So it means that from mathematics, from physical education, or so mother tongue, and so you can find those competence areas included the disciplines and subject matters. Okay, next slide, please. When we are talking about our upper secondary general education, so we have a criteria that students have to complete the comprehensive school syllabus. So that is the criteria that you can continue to the upper secondary general education gymnasium side. And also the objective is to somehow to continue to tertiary level from there. And this takes 3 years. And in August 2021, there will be a 150 credit points. How we have divided this. Before this reform, we had courses. And now we have this, there should be a 75 courses, but now we made a credit points that is quite equal that the universities are using. Also, if we are talking about Finland scale, so we have 383 educational institutions, upper secondary education institutions in Finland. And okay, let me say a little more than 100,000 students. And this size is something like Hessen in Germany. So that is the scale in Finland, that we are like the Hessen in, when we are talking about how many inhabitants lives in here. We have also 17 upper secondary schools that offer international baccalaureate, And also we have this Reiterprüfung, one school, and also we have a one school gymnasium exam. So altogether 1,800 students are in this international side in here. Most of the schools are owned by the municipalities, 80%, and private institutions, 13%. So it means that this 80% are like a municipality owned, and as a ministry, we have nothing to do with them. So they are independently organizing education, but they have to follow the core curriculum. Everybody have to follow the core curriculum, but they have to have a curriculums of their own also. These private institutions are not totally private. They are, as OECD defined it, that they are government dependent. So every license that are organized in Finland, education license, have to be approved by the government. So there can be a totally wild schools or school providers in Finland. And okay, in autumn 2021, we are going to extend our second step will be obligatory for everybody. Okay, in short, curriculum. So in autumn 2019, Finnish National Agency for Education completed the national core curriculum for general upper secondary schools. And if we take here, so as I mentioned already, that there are 150 credit points, or is a total number of, and here is to mention that okay, it might vary. What are the compulsory studies are 94 or 102 credit points, but what is the important that students should complete the other optional studies decided by the education provider. So in curriculum there are 20 credit points that are made by the school provider, and they are like the optional studies that students can use. So it gives a freedom for schools to organize their teaching. They can put a little bit more physical education, a little bit more music or something like that. So they can a little bit profile their own school. And this new curriculum will be entering into the force on 1st August 2021. Okay, next slide, please. Here's the distribution of credits. And okay, on the left side, you can see what kind of disciplines we have in upper secondary general education. And there is a compulsory that many credit points they have to make. And in brackets, there are those what were previously courses. So we a little bit expanded the number, but the contents are still the same. So we want to keep this as quite equal as it was beforehand, that there are no battle between the disciplines. As you know, that we have to respect all the disciplines that exist. We have to respect biology, we have to respect music, we have to respect chemistry or psychology and so on. So history and so on. So we make this quite equal as it was before. But what is the genius in here is that now school providers can combine these disciplines and subject matters much more easier together. For example, they can make together course, for example, consist on biology, physics, mathematics, and chemistry. And that can be like a biotechnology. That's so there can be more freedom. They have now much more freedom to combine these type of, because there exist many professions nowadays that like as I mentioned, this biotechnology or nanotechnology or so, that you can't take them straight to the certain discipline, for example physics or so, but they are like combined many disciplines. So that's why we are make much more easier now also make the courses at the upper secondary general education that consist on those things. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, and what are the our reform most important changes? And here it mentioned credits instead of courses. That is the first. As I mentioned, that it's much more. It gives much more freedom to combine. When we come to the second point, here is studies across the subject boundaries. So general upper secondary schools could provide more extensive study modules crossing subject boundaries more freely than before. So this means that this is very flexible system, that it depends on, for example, in a certain area, that if you have certain industry over there or certain universities that are covering certain fields. So these upper secondary general education schools can make that kind of courses, but still these disciplines and subjects contents are the same, but they can make a more bigger courses for them. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. Closer cooperation with higher education institutions. So we put an obligatory for every upper secondary school that they have to cooperate with the universities and University of Applied Sciences. So there are no students anymore that if they complete upper secondary general education, that they don't have had a contact to the university. Stronger focus on internationality, as we know that we are more international all the time. So we want to guarantee that every student that went through the upper secondary general education, they have also an international contact. Okay, next slide, please. Matriculation examinations could be retaken as many times as student wishes. So before that, we had that there was that the student can take only 3 times a certain. But now we free that, because we think that the most important is that that student have a possibility to show their own ability whenever it exists. So this is the only high text our system. So it's not just only these 3 times that you have a chance to show it that how good you are, but whenever you want to do it, so you have a freedom to do it. We added also special need education and support for students in upper secondary education. We have found out that this special education, that if somebody have a certain difficulties for reading or so, it doesn't mean that he or she is not clever, but it means that there is just a certain structural problem in reading and so on. Maybe read a little slower, but still they are very sharp, intelligent. So we will take an open attitude towards students that yes, if you need help, so we will help you. And we have made also a certain for those who have a little bit difficulties to read, so that fast as the others. So we have give them, for example, more extra time in tests and so on, that they can really show their own skills and abilities in certain disciplines. A professional study plan for every student. So it means that the students have to start immediately when they enter to the upper secondary general education. So they have to start to plan what they are going to study afterwards and so on. So we will make a personal study plan for every student. Okay, next slide, please. Competence acquired elsewhere would be recognized. So if somebody has studied already something, so they don't have to do it again. For example, languages might be so that we have also a German language in our upper secondary general education. If somebody is very clever in German, so he or she can negotiate that, okay, do I have to take these basic courses here and so on. More personal study guidance. As I said before, that we concentrate now more on quite a personal study plans. Guidance for the formal students. So if somebody has not entered or couldn't reach to the university, so he or she have a right to have a more guidance afterwards, 1 year. And zero tolerance for bullying. So we added all these anti-bullying clans to our every stage. So this is also one that we want to have zero tolerance for this. Okay, next slide, please. And here are the competence areas, as I mentioned before, in upper secondary general education. Starting up from the very top, this is well-being competence. Then on the right side up, communicative competence, multidisciplinary and creative competence, societal competence, ethics and environmental competence, global and cultural competence. And again, these are written inside the curriculum, these disciplines. So that is the Finnish solution for this discussion about competencies and the disciplines. So both exist, but they are integrated. Next slide, please. Okay, what was it was quite a successful reform. So disciplines and their relations were maintained. So we didn't change these. So there are teachers can think that, okay, I can freely now do the really good new things with other teachers. That I don't have to, that somebody's taking some hours away from me or so. Teachers and principals were involved in the planning process, so we collected a huge number of teachers and student counselors and principals and other stakeholders, and we discussed that what kind of a act do you like to have, and we asked freely about them that how you are going to. So we would like to take them with us, and also the stakeholders were consulted extensively throughout the planning process. School-specific study units can be seen as a strength. So we think that there have to be something also school-specific things that the ownership comes from the local side. So if there is a certain number of credits that are local ones, so that might be a good. Cooperation between different authorities was open and transparent. So we published all the. We have a basic principle that all these informations are open in our websites, and there are some according to new curriculums. It means that it's transversal competence and studies in all subjects. So it means that these are included over there. Okay, thank you. So next slide. Something about our vocational education reform, starting from the left, this flexible admissions, left and a little bit. So there's a certain kind of path, as you see. So starting from the flexible admissions. So then there's a personal study plan again. Then there are education happens this in environments that are these happens at the classrooms and also at the real workplaces. So this might be familiar for you. I think that you know this very well in your country, I suppose.
Yes.
Okay. Then there are teacher guidance and then flexible study time. So it means that it can take if you are clever, so you can be faster than the others and so on. And then there are these skills demonstrations and practical work that this happens in a real working situation. And might happen. And then you have a broad-based qualifications. Before that reform, we had 351 qualifications, and we put together these. That now there are 164 qualifications. They are much more broader right now than like car industry or so. So it means that these are quite a broad-based qualifications. Then you can continue to the work, employment, or you can go to the higher education after the vocational side. Okay, next slide, please. And if you have a time, so you can find these changes in vocational education and training reform. So on the left side, they are like, what does it mean to the education providers? Mm-hmm. And on the right hand, you can see what does it mean for the student. Mm-hmm. And next slide, please. And here are just a little bit more about this. Okay, vielen Dank. Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to have a time that discuss with you and show these reforms.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tornberg from the Ministry of Education in Finland, based in Helsinki, I assume. It is really important information for us as we are beginning to rethink upper secondary education for the 21st century. And I think Finland has always been a model for us in many regards in terms of the flexibility of your thinking and of your action. And I would like to thank you very much. I think your presentation answered all of our questions so far, and I'm sure we will get back to you in the coming year or so when we are going much more deeply into the changes that we deem to be necessary to modernize our own system of upper secondary education. So thank you again very much for sharing your time with us, Dr. Aki Tornberg from Finland.
Thank you very much.